One of the hardest parts about serving for most older tennis players is getting a good loading position. A lot of older players really struggle to be balanced in the loading position, and because of that, they're not able to create a stable base and drive effectively to start the racket drop and the throwing motion. So in this video, I want to show you a few maybe slightly unusual exercises to help you become more balanced in your loading position to then help you develop a better serve. Hopefully you find the video helpful. If you do, it'd be great if you give me a thumbs up. And if you haven't subscribed to my channel before, it's much appreciated if you could do that as well. So you would think from watching a lot of coaching videos that serving is easy. You just throw the ball up, load, and then go for it. But as you probably found out, it can be trickier than that. And one of the reasons it can be so tricky is because of the balance requirements when you go into that loading position. Firstly, you've got to coordinate the ball toss, but then you're on the balls of your feet, leaning backwards, looking up into the air. And that's challenging for a lot of people. So in order to improve your balance, we have to work on a few different things. The first thing is going to be proprioception. So sending better information back from your feet and ankles to your brain so that it feels more comfortable in this position and it's going to be happier letting you drive up. And the way that we're going to do that, we're actually going to do a couple of progressions. The first one is just standing on the balls of your feet. So I'm just going to stand like so. I've raised my heels off the ground, and in this position you want to try and have good posture. So I'm not standing like this, I'm trying to have my pelvis nice and neutral. And then what you'll feel is your feet and ankles are going to be working hard, and depending how strong you are, you might find it really challenging on your calves. But that's going to be the first variation. Now, you probably want to practice both, but if you use a platform stance, you're definitely going to want to work with your feet separated. If you use a pinpoint stance, you definitely want to try this with your feet together, but for most people it's probably a good idea to train both. So that's the first progression for proprioception. The second progression, you're going to do the same thing but with your eyes closed, because when we take away our visual system, we're now only relying on the feedback, or mostly relying on the feedback that comes from our feet and ankles, etc. So same thing, just heels off the ground, but my eyes are going to be closed. And you'll find that when your eyes are closed, your feet and ankles are going to really start to be challenged more. So just make sure that you're nice and safe when you do this. Don't do it with any sharp objects around, but see how long you can go for. Maybe holding for 20 or 30 seconds is going to be a really good exercise for getting some strength into the feet, into the ankles, and improving proprioception. So they're the first two drills that you can work on. Now we're going to do some work for your balance system, which is the vestibular system that lives in the inner ear. This is a really important system for everything that you do in tennis because it controls your posture, it's really important for rotation, and it keeps your eyes fixed on the ball as your body and as your head moves. So it's a really big deal, and it's an especially big deal on your serve, because on your serve, like we've just said, you have to tip your head back while remaining balanced and then throw yourself upwards. So if this system in the inner ear isn't working optimally, which unfortunately it isn't for a lot of older players, then there's no way that your body is going to let you have great leg drive and a wonderful, efficient serve. So we're going to do a couple of different exercises to help train it. Now the first exercise we're going to do is something called a VOR. This trains the reflex that keeps the eyes looking at a target. So the way that you can do this is just hold your thumbnail in front, and I'm going to be looking at my thumbnail, and then I'm going to turn my head in different directions. Now, when we're serving, we're generally going to be thinking about upwards directions, but really to train the system, you want to work on all different directions. So we think about the 8 points of the compass. So I want to do it turning my head to the right. I want to do it turning my head to the left, taking my head upwards, going downwards, going up and left, going up and right, going down and left, and going down and right. Now, because we're challenging the balance system, the vestibular system in your inner ear, if you do have problems with this system, these type of exercises can make you feel dizzy and lightheaded and nauseous. So if you start doing them and that happens, just stop and take a rest until you feel better. It should pass very quickly. If it doesn't pass really quickly, then you definitely want to go to your doctors and make sure that nothing is wrong, but it might just mean that you need to train these systems a little bit more. So for that reason, I tend to start people off really slowly, maybe start with 5 reps reps in each direction, but then over time you can build up from there to start to challenge the system more. So that's the first exercise. The second exercise is similar but different. This time I'm going to hold my thumb out in front, and I'm now going to move my head and arms, so I'm going to move my head and my eyes at the same speed. So I'm imagining that my nose and my eyes are connected to my thumbnail. So I'm looking at my thumbnail and I'm turning my head. And again, I would do that in 8 different directions: to the left, to the right, going downwards, going upwards, and then doing the 4 different diagonals. And this is really an important skill for helping you to track the ball as well. As you track it through to contact, you're tracking it with your head and eyes. As you're throwing the ball up, you're tracking it with your head and eyes. So it's very specific to ball tracking, but more generally, we're going to be training this balance system in the inner ear. And again, about 5 repetitions in each direction is going to be a good target. Just being sensible with your training. If you do have problems, don't push through it. You might need to just build up really slowly. And then the next progression that we can do is combining the 2 things together. So standing on the balls of our feet, again, raising our heels, and then working on these vestibular exercises. So holding my thumb out in front and then doing VORs, so looking at my thumbnail as I turn my head in different directions. Again, 5 reps in each direction is going to be a good starting point for most people, but just being mindful of how your body responds. If you feel great, then you can push it more. If you find them very challenging, you might need to build it more slowly. And I started doing this type of training after I'd had a lot of concussions when I was younger. So for me, I was one of those people that had to build up slowly. So it's just a case of going at a pace that your body can handle. So we've got the VORs, and then we've got the VORCs. And what you might find when you start to work on these exercises, especially going upwards, is that your balance becomes really challenging. And that is why it can be so difficult for people to get in a good loading position. But if you spend a little bit of time, work on improving the foot and ankle proprioception and strength, work on training the vestibular system, the balance system in the inner ear, and then over time combine them together, you should find that really helps you to become much more stable on your serve. And I guess one final progression that you can work on is you can practice just being in position. So practice being in that loaded position, maybe having the head in neutral first so I can get used to the leg position and build some strength in it, but then taking my head up, and now I've taken away my visual feedback with the ground, and that makes things more challenging. So that's kind of an extra thing that you can bolt on to the end. But the combination should really help you to become more stable. Now, if you found this video helpful, you might be interested in a live workshop that I've got coming up. It's a completely free event, but I'm going to be teaching you how you can use brain-based training to become more skillful. So we're going to be looking at improving balance. We're also going to be talking about things you could do to improve your vision and your coordination, because really the key to playing better tennis is being more skillful, because once you're more skillful, you're able to do more stuff. So I'll place a link to this free class down in the description. Click on that link, it'll take you over to a different page so you can learn more about it and potentially register. Okay, thanks for watching. If you have any questions or comments about what I've covered here, leave them down in the comment section. I'll try and get back to you as quick as I can. Otherwise, I appreciate you watching, and I will see you next time.